February 17th, 1943. RAF Biggin Hill, southeastern England. Ernst Kohler pushes a maintenance cart across the rain-slicked tarmac of Luftwaffe Forward Operating Base 127, watching ground crews swarm over 18 Messerschmitt Bf 109 fighters being prepared for the afternoon sortie against Allied bomber formations. The fighters sit in perfect rows, wings glistening under the overcast sky, fuel trucks moving between them like worker ants feeding a colony. Each aircraft represents 600 hours of German manufacturing labor, 14,000 precision components, and the difference between a successful interception and Allied bombers reaching their targets unmolested. Kohler is 47 years old, balding, unremarkable. He wears the gray coveralls of Luftwaffe ground maintenance personnel, second class. His job is menial: empty trash bins, mop floors in the operations building, clean lavatories, sweep hangars. The kind of work the Luftwaffe assigns to men too old for combat, too unskilled for technical positions, too necessary to dismiss entirely. Someone has to maintain base sanitation. Someone has to keep facilities functional, while younger men service aircraft and fight wars. What the Luftwaffe doesn't know, what the base security officer never discovered during Kohler's background screening, what no one in the German military apparatus suspects, is that Ernst Kohler isn't German at all. He's Ernst Kowalski, born in Krakow, Poland, a former aircraft mechanic who worked for the Polish Air Force until September 1939, when the Wehrmacht rolled across his country and destroyed everything he'd spent his life building. His wife died in the bombing of Warsaw. His 2 sons were conscripted into forced labor and disappeared somewhere in the occupied territories. Kohler, Kowalski, survived by erasing his identity, forging documents, and accepting the most invisible job he could find: janitor on a Luftwaffe base in occupied France. For 3 years, he's emptied garbage and memorized aircraft maintenance procedures. For 3 years, he's watched German ground crews. Service fighters learned their protocols, understood their systems. For 3 years, he's waited for an opportunity to do more than survive. Today, February 17th, 1943, that opportunity has arrived in the form of a single piece of knowledge that dropped into Kohler's lap yesterday afternoon while he was mopping the floor outside the base engineering office. Major Heinrich Strauss, the base maintenance officer, was briefing his senior crew chiefs about a critical parts shortage. Effective immediately, no aircraft with red-tagged hydraulic actuators are to fly until replacement parts arrive from Munich. The actuators in the current batch show metal fatigue. Flight Safety Division is explicit. Red tag means grounded until replacement. I don't care if the aircraft looks functional. If it has a red hydraulic tag, it doesn't fly. Kohler, invisible as always, pushed his mop across the floor and filed that information away. Now at 13:40 hours on February 17th, he's pushing his maintenance cart toward Hangar 3, where 6 Bf-10-9s are undergoing routine service. The afternoon sortie launches at 15:30 hours. Ground crews are working frantically to complete pre-flight checks. Mechanics crawl over aircraft, checking control surfaces, topping off ammunition, verifying radio equipment. Kohler's cart contains the usual items: cleaning supplies, rags, a trash bin. Hidden at the bottom, wrapped in an oily cloth, are 15 red maintenance tags. The official Luftwaffe do not fly tags, used to mark aircraft with critical defects. He didn't steal them. He made them. 3 weeks of careful work in his quarters, cutting metal tags from salvaged aluminum. stamping them with markings copied from real maintenance tags he'd photographed using a camera stolen from a dead French partisan. The forgeries aren't perfect, but they don't need to be. They just need to look legitimate enough that a ground crew chief, working under time pressure, will accept them as real until someone higher up the command chain investigates. The plan is simple, absurd, and completely dependent on the chaos of military logistics. Kohler is going to tag 42 aircraft with false maintenance flags indicating hydraulic actuator failure. The tags will ground every fighter on the base for 3 to 6 hours, while maintenance officers scramble to verify the tags, inspect the supposedly defective components, and discover that nothing is actually wrong. By the time the Germans figure out the tags are fake, the afternoon sortie will be canceled. Allied bombers will complete their mission over occupied France without fighter interception. And a janitor, who spent 3 years invisible, will have accomplished what an entire RAF bomber wing couldn't: temporary suppression of Luftwaffe interceptor capability. If it works, if the Germans don't notice the tags are forgeries, if Kohler doesn't get caught placing them, if base security doesn't execute him before he can finish. Kohler pushes his cart past 2 Luftwaffe guards smoking cigarettes near the hangar entrance. They don't look at him. Janitors are invisible. He enters Hangar 3, where 6 Bf-10-9s sit in various states of maintenance. Ground crews work underneath, checking landing gear, servicing hydraulic systems, replacing worn components. The hydraulic actuators that control the Bf-10-9's landing gear and flaps are located in the wheel wells, accessible through inspection panels on the underside of the fuselage. Each actuator has a metal data plate listing serial numbers and inspection dates. Maintenance crews tag defective actuators by attaching red metal tags to the data plate using wire clips. Kohler approaches the first aircraft, a Bf-109G6, with the tactical number White 7 painted on its fuselage. 2 mechanics are working on the port side, adjusting something in the engine compartment. Neither pays attention to the janitor with the cart. Kohler kneels beside his cart, pulls out a cleaning rag, and pretends to wipe hydraulic fluid off the floor beneath the starboard wheel well. His hands move quickly. He reaches into the cart, extracts one of the forged red tags, and clips it to the hydraulic actuator data plate. The tag reads, "Hydraulic actuator, metal fatigue detected. Do not fly. Replacement required. Inspector, SGT Mueller. Date, 16th of February, 1943. The entire process takes 11 seconds. Kohler moves to the next aircraft. By 13:55 hours, he's tagged all 6 aircraft in Hangar 3. None of the ground crews noticed. He's just the janitor, cleaning up the workspace, staying out of the way. Kohler moves to Hangar 4, where 8 more Bf-109s are staged. The crews here are working faster, more urgently. The afternoon sortie is 95 minutes away. Pre-flight checks need to be completed soon. A crew chief, Feldwebel Otto Kraus, is barking orders. "Faster! I want every aircraft fueled and armed by 14:30 hours. The Tommies are hitting Amiens today, and we're not letting them through." Kohler pushes his cart past Kraus, who doesn't acknowledge his existence. Invisible. He tags the first aircraft, the second, the third. On the 4th aircraft, a mechanic is working directly beneath the starboard wheel well, adjusting the landing gear retraction mechanism. Kohler waits, pretending to sweep the floor. The mechanic finishes his adjustment, closes the inspection panel, and moves to check the port side. Kohler kneels, opens the starboard inspection panel, clips the red tag to the hydraulic actuator, and closes the panel. 14 seconds. By 14-18 hours, all 8 aircraft in Hangar 4 are tagged. Kohler moves to the outdoor flight line, where 28 additional Bf-109s are parked in neat rows, already fueled and armed, awaiting final pre-flight inspection before the sortie. This is the dangerous part. The hangars offered concealment, shadows, clutter. The flight line is open, exposed. Guards patrol constantly. Any suspicious behavior will be noticed immediately. Kohler adjusts his approach. Instead of using his cart, he carries only a trash bin and a collection bag. Just a janitor cleaning up debris around the aircraft, ensuring the flight line stays tidy. Nothing unusual. He approaches the first row of fighters. 6 Bf-10-9s, engines cold, canopies open. Ground crews are conducting final walk-arounds, checking control surface movement, verifying ammunition loads. Kohler moves between the aircraft, picking up discarded cigarette butts, empty oil cans, scraps of wire. He kneels beside the first aircraft, pretending to retrieve something from beneath the wheel well. His hand moves quickly. The red tag clips into place. He stands, drops a piece of trash into his bin, and moves to the next aircraft. A Luftwaffe lieutenant, Oberleutnant Franz Weber, approaches. "You, janitor, clear this area. We're conducting pre-flight checks." "Jawohl, Herr Oberleutnant." Kohler nods respectfully, picks up his trash bin, and moves to the next row of aircraft. Weber watches him for 3 seconds, then turns away to inspect a fighter's wing-mounted cannon. Kohler tags 6 aircraft in the second row, 7 in the third row. By 14-47 hours, he's tagged 42 aircraft total. Every serviceable Bf-109 on the base. He returns his cart to the maintenance shed, empties the trash bin, and walks calmly toward the operations building to resume his normal duties. His hands don't shake. His expression reveals nothing. At 15:05 hours, 25 minutes before the scheduled sortie launch, Feldwebel Kraus conducts his final pre-flight inspection of White 7 in Hangar 3. He's checking the hydraulic system data plate, verifying that all maintenance has been completed when he sees the red tag. "What the hell?" Kraus stares at the tag. "Muller tagged this actuator yesterday? Why wasn't I informed?" He calls over his senior mechanic. "Did you know about this hydraulic flag?" The mechanic examines the tag. "No, Feldwebel. I serviced this aircraft this morning. There was no tag." "Are you certain?" "Absolutely certain. I inspected the hydraulics myself. No issues. No tags." Kraus's confusion deepens. "Then where did this tag come from?" He checks the next aircraft. Another red hydraulic tag. And the next, another tag. "Scheisse. Get Major Strauss. Now." Major Heinrich Strauss arrives at Hangar 3 at 15:12 hours. Kraus briefs him quickly. "Sir, someone has tagged every aircraft in this hangar with hydraulic failure flags, but my crews report no hydraulic issues during this morning's service." Strauss examines the tags. They look legitimate. Correct format, proper markings, dated yesterday. But something feels wrong. Why would inspection tags appear suddenly on aircraft that were cleared for flight this morning? "Check the other hangars," Strauss orders. By 15:21 hours, the scope of the problem becomes clear. 42 aircraft have been tagged with hydraulic actuator failure notifications. 42 aircraft that were scheduled to launch in 9 minutes. Strauss is now facing an impossible decision. The tags appear legitimate. Flight safety regulations are explicit. Aircraft with red-tagged hydraulic actuators do not fly. But if all 42 aircraft are genuinely defective, the afternoon's sortie is canceled, and Allied bombers will hit their targets unopposed. But if the tags are erroneous, if someone made a mistake, grounding the entire fighter wing based on false information will result in a catastrophic intelligence failure. Strauss calls the base commander, Oberst Friedrich von Handel. "Sir, we have a situation. 42 aircraft have been red-tagged for hydraulic failure. I need guidance." Von Handel arrives at the flight line at 15:28 hours, 2 minutes before scheduled launch. He stares at the rows of grounded fighters, at the ground crews standing idle, at the pilots waiting in the operations building for an order that isn't coming. "Explain!" Von Handel demands. Strauss briefs him quickly. Von Handel examines one of the tags. "Who authorized these tags?" "They're signed by Sergeant Muller, sir. But Muller is on leave. He hasn't been on base for 3 days. Von Handel's expression darkens. "You're telling me these tags are forged?" "I don't know, sir. They could be administrative errors. They could be genuine tags placed by someone else using Muller's name. Or they could be sabotage." "How long to verify every tagged actuator?" "Complete inspection of 42 aircraft? Minimum 4 hours, sir. Possibly 6. Von Handel does the calculation instantly. The Allied bomber formation is already en route. Intelligence reports indicate they'll reach their target at approximately 16:30 hours. By the time his fighters are cleared to fly, the bombers will have completed their mission and turned for home. The afternoon sortie is canceled. Von Handel orders immediate investigation. "I want security to review all personnel who had access to maintenance areas in the past 24 hours. I want every one of these tags analyzed. And I want the person responsible found and executed." Ernst Kohler is mopping the floor in the operations building latrine when the security investigation begins. 2 Luftwaffe military police officers are questioning ground personnel, demanding to know who had access to the flight line, who could have placed the tags. Kohler mops methodically, listening to fragments of conversation through the thin walls. "Sabotage. Possible resistance infiltration. Check all personnel records." He finishes mopping, empties his bucket, and walks calmly to the maintenance shed. He retrieves his cart, checks that nothing incriminating remains, and continues his normal duties. By 16:20 hours, Luftwaffe engineers have begun inspecting the tagged actuators. The first inspection reveals no defects. The hydraulic actuator is functional. No metal fatigue. No wear patterns indicating failure. The tag is false. The second inspection, same result. Functional actuator, false tag. Third, fourth, fifth inspections. Every tagged actuator is fully operational. Every tag is fraudulent. Major Strauss reports to von Handel at 16:45 hours. "Sir, all tags are confirmed false. Every aircraft is flight ready. Someone deliberately grounded our entire fighter wing using forged maintenance flags. Von Handel's rage is incandescent. Allied bombers struck Amiens 15 minutes ago, unopposed, because we were chasing phantom hydraulic failures." He turns to the base security officer. "Find whoever did this. Search every building. Question every person on this base. I want answers." The security sweep begins immediately. 150 personnel are questioned. Ground crews, mechanics, administrative staff, kitchen workers. Everyone who had access to maintenance areas or could have placed the tags. The investigation focuses on technical personnel, mechanics, engineers, anyone with knowledge of aircraft systems and maintenance procedures. The assumption is logical. Only someone with technical expertise could create convincing forged tags and know exactly where to place them for maximum impact. They don't question the janitors. Janitors don't understand hydraulic systems. Janitors don't have access to metal stamping equipment. Janitors are invisible. Ernst Kohler continues his duties. He cleans the operations building latrine, empties trash bins, sweeps the hangar floors where engineers are still inspecting hydraulic actuators, searching for evidence of who placed the tags and how they gained access to secure areas. At 18:20 hours, as winter darkness settles over the base, Kohler is cleaning the officers' mess when he overhears Major Strauss briefing von Handel. "Sir, preliminary analysis suggests the tags were manufactured off-base. The metal composition matches Luftwaffe specification, but the stamping pattern shows minor irregularities. Someone with access to aircraft maintenance documentation created near-perfect forgeries." "Resistance?" von Handel asks. "Possible, sir, but the sophistication suggests inside knowledge. Someone who understands our maintenance protocols intimately. Then we have a traitor on this base?" "Yes, sir. Security is conducting background reviews on all technical personnel. Anyone with suspicious history or unexplained access." Kohler empties a trash bin, wipes down tables, and returns to his quarters at 1920 hours. The small room he shares with 3 other custodial workers is cold, lit by a single bare bulb. His roommates are already asleep, or pretending to be. He lies on his bunk and stares at the ceiling, calculating. 42 aircraft grounded for 6 hours. The afternoon sortie canceled. Allied bombers struck their target without interception. He doesn't know what they hit. The Germans don't share tactical intelligence with janitors, but whatever the target was, it was destroyed or damaged because Luftwaffe fighters sat on the ground chasing false maintenance flags. 1 man, 15 forged tags. 6 hours of disruption. The mathematics are smaller than he'd hoped. 6 hours isn't a strategic victory. It's a tactical annoyance. By tomorrow morning, the Luftwaffe will have verified all aircraft and resumed normal operations. His sabotage bought the Allies 1 mission, 1 target, 1 day. But Kohler understands something the Germans don't. Sabotage isn't about singular devastating acts. It's about accumulated disruption. Death by 1,000 cuts. Make the enemy waste time, waste resources, waste attention on problems that shouldn't exist. Today, 6 hours. Next week, maybe 8 hours. The week after, 12. Each disruption forces the Germans to implement new security measures, conduct more inspections, divert personnel from combat operations to counterintelligence. Eventually, the cumulative cost exceeds the resources the enemy can afford to spend. Kohler falls asleep planning his next operation. Not hydraulic tags. The Germans will be watching for those now. Something different. Something equally subtle, but targeting a different system. February 18th, 1943. 06:30 hours. Ernst Kohler wakes, dresses in his gray coveralls, and reports for his morning shift. The base is tense. Security personnel patrol constantly. Ground crews conduct triple checks on every aircraft before flight operations. At 07:10 hours, Kohler is mopping the floor outside the base security office when he hears Hauptmann Klaus Richter, the security officer, briefing his investigators. The forged tags were placed between 1,300 and 1,500 hours yesterday. Whoever did this moved through 3 separate secure areas without being challenged. That suggests either someone with legitimate access or someone so non-threatening that guards ignored them. One of the investigators responds, "Sir, we've cleared all technical personnel. Background checks show no suspicious connections, no resistance links, No unexplained absences. Then expand the search. Question non-technical staff. Anyone who was in those areas yesterday. Kohler continues mopping, moving slowly toward the stairwell, listening. Sir, that's over 200 people. Kitchen staff, clerks, custodial workers. I don't care if it's 2,000 people. Someone placed those tags. Find them. At 09:45 hours, security begins questioning custodial staff. 8 janitors work on the base, maintaining facilities across hangars, operations buildings, barracks, and mess halls. All are older men, classified as non-essential labor, too old or too unskilled for combat duty. Kohler is the 3rd janitor questioned. He's escorted to a small office where Hauptmann Richter sits behind a desk, a Luger pistol in a holster on his belt, a notebook open in front of him. Name: Ernst Kohler, sir. Assignment: Custodial Services, 2nd class, Hangar Maintenance and Operations Building. Where were you between 1300 and 1500 hours yesterday? Working, sir. I cleaned Hangar 3 in the early afternoon, then moved to Hangar 4. After that, I collected trash from the flight line. Richter makes a note. You had access to all the areas where forged maintenance tags were placed. Yes, sir. My duties require access to those areas. Did you see anyone acting suspiciously? Anyone accessing aircraft who shouldn't have been there? No, sir. Just the usual ground crews conducting pre-flight service. Do you have technical knowledge of aircraft systems? No, sir. I'm a janitor. I clean floors and empty trash. Richter studies him for a long moment. Kohler meets his gaze without flinching. He's perfected the appearance of a tired, middle-aged man who wants nothing more than to finish his shift and go home. Invisible. Dismissed. If you remember anything unusual, report it immediately. Jawohl, Herr Hauptmann. Kohler returns to his duties. He's been questioned and cleared. The investigation will continue focusing on technical personnel, on anyone with the expertise to forge maintenance tags. The Germans are looking for a skilled saboteur, someone with engineering knowledge and resistance connections. They're not looking for a janitor who spent 12 years working as an aircraft mechanic for the Polish Air Force before the war erased his life. By February 20th, 1943, the investigation stalls. Security has questioned 340 personnel, conducted background reviews on 180 suspects, and found nothing. No resistance connections, no suspicious behavior, no evidence of who placed the tags or how they manufactured them. Von Handel is furious. He orders increased security, mandatory identification checks at all hangar entrances, and armed guards stationed at every aircraft during maintenance periods. The new security measures are exactly what Kohler expected. The Germans are predictable. When they can't find a saboteur, they implement blanket security that makes everyone's job harder. Kohler studies the new security protocols carefully. Armed guards at hangar entrances means he can't simply walk in with a cart anymore. But the guards are checking technical personnel, mechanics, engineers, anyone carrying tools or parts. They're not searching janitors. Why would they? Janitors carry cleaning supplies, trash bins, mops. Nothing dangerous, nothing worth inspecting. February 23rd, 1943. Kohler begins planning his next operation. The hydraulic tag approach worked once, but won't work again. The Germans are inspecting all red maintenance tags now, verifying each one before grounding aircraft. He needs a different vector, something equally disruptive, but harder to detect. He considers fuel contamination, adding water to aviation fuel tanks. Too risky. Fuel is constantly tested. Contamination would be detected before engines started. He considers sabotaging electrical systems, cutting wires in radio equipment or navigation instruments. Too obvious. Damage would be discovered during pre-flight checks. Then, while cleaning the base engineering office on February 24th, Kohler overhears a conversation that gives him exactly what he needs. Major Strauss is briefing his maintenance crews about a new directive from Luftwaffe High Command. Effective immediately, all aircraft oxygen systems must be pressure tested before every flight. Pilot reports from the Eastern Front indicate multiple oxygen system failures at high altitude. We're implementing preventive testing. The oxygen system. Kohler knows it intimately. The BF-109 carries a pressurized oxygen bottle mounted behind the pilot's seat, feeding oxygen through a regulator to the pilot's mask. At altitudes above 4,000 meters, the oxygen system is critical. Without it, pilots experience hypoxia, oxygen starvation, leading to impaired judgment, loss of consciousness, and fatal crashes. The system is simple: a high-pressure bottle, a regulator valve, delivery hoses, and the pilot's mask. The bottle is filled from ground-based oxygen supply carts. The pressure is tested by connecting a gauge to the regulator and verifying that pressure holds steady. But there's a vulnerability. If the regulator valve is adjusted slightly, just a few degrees of rotation, the oxygen flow rate changes. Too little flow, and the pilot doesn't receive adequate oxygen at altitude. The change is subtle enough that ground testing won't detect it. The gauge will show proper pressure. The system will appear functional. But at 6,000 meters, when the pilot needs maximum oxygen flow, the restricted regulator won't deliver enough. The pilot will begin experiencing hypoxia symptoms within minutes: confusion, impaired coordination, eventual unconsciousness. Kohler knows exactly how to adjust the regulators. He spent hundreds of hours servicing oxygen systems in the Polish Air Force. The adjustment requires no tools, just fingers strong enough to rotate the valve collar by 3 degrees against spring tension. 30 seconds per aircraft. The beauty of the sabotage is its invisibility. Ground crews test oxygen pressure, not flow rate. The system will pass every inspection. Only at altitude, when pilots need the oxygen most, will the sabotage manifest. And the Germans will blame the failures on defective equipment, not sabotage. Oxygen system malfunctions are common enough that isolated failures won't trigger investigations. February 26, 1943. Kohler begins his operation. The new security measures require him to present identification at hangar entrances, but guards barely glance at custodial workers. He's still invisible. He enters hangar 3 at 0840 hours, pushing his cart, carrying his trash bin. 6 BF-109s are undergoing routine maintenance. Ground crews work on engines and landing gear. Nobody's checking oxygen systems. Those tests happen during pre-flight, not during maintenance. Kohler approaches the first aircraft. The oxygen bottle access panel is located on the port side of the fuselage, behind the cockpit. He pretends to clean spilled hydraulic fluid from the floor beneath the aircraft. His left hand steadies him against the fuselage. His right hand reaches up, opens the oxygen panel. It's not locked, doesn't need to be, and locates the regulator valve. The valve collar rotates to adjust flow rate. Standard setting, 12 o'clock position. Kohler rotates it to 9 o'clock, reducing flow by approximately 40%. Enough to cause hypoxia at altitude, not enough to be noticed during ground testing. He closes the panel. Total time, 34 seconds. He moves to the next aircraft, then the next. By 09:20 hours, he's adjusted oxygen regulators on all 6 aircraft in Hangar 3. Over the next 4 days, Kohler systematically sabotages oxygen systems on 37 aircraft. He works slowly, carefully, never adjusting more than 8 regulators per day. Rushing would be suspicious. Custodial workers don't rush. March 2nd, 1943, 14:20 hours. Luftwaffe. Forward Operating Base 127 launches an interception sortie against Allied bombers targeting Lille. 16 Bf-109. Fighters take off in 2 swarm formations, climbing to intercept altitude, 6,500 meters. Among the pilots is Lieutenant Carl Fischer, a 24-year-old fighter pilot with 19 confirmed kills. Fischer's aircraft, White 11, was serviced 4 days ago. The oxygen system passed all ground tests. Pressure normal. No defects noted. At 6,200 meters, Fischer begins experiencing symptoms he doesn't immediately recognize. Mild euphoria, slight tunnel vision, difficulty focusing on his instrument panel. He assumes it's fatigue. He flew 2 missions yesterday and continues climbing. At 6,500 meters, his judgment deteriorates noticeably. He misses radio calls from his flight leader. His formation flying becomes erratic. He doesn't realize he's hypoxic because hypoxia impairs the brain's ability to recognize its own dysfunction. At 6,700 meters, Fischer's vision narrows to a small circle. His hands feel numb. He tries to call for help, but can't remember radio procedures. At 6,800 meters, he loses consciousness. White 11 enters a shallow dive, pilot unconscious, engines still running. The aircraft descends through 4,000 meters, where increasing air density provides enough ambient oxygen that Fischer regains partial consciousness. He's disoriented, confused, unsure what happened. He aborts the mission and returns to base, reporting oxygen system malfunction. The same day, 3 other pilots report similar symptoms: euphoria at altitude, confusion, near loss of consciousness. All abort their missions. All report oxygen system issues. Major Strauss orders immediate oxygen system inspections. Ground crews pressure test every regulator. Every system passes. Pressure is normal. No leaks detected. Strauss is baffled. 4 pilots report oxygen failure, but every system tests normal. What am I missing? One of his senior engineers, Oberfeldwebel Hans Decker, suggests, "Sir, pressure testing verifies that oxygen is present in the system. It doesn't verify flow rate. If the regulators are misadjusted, they might deliver insufficient oxygen at altitude even though pressure appears normal. Check flow rates on every aircraft." The flow rate testing reveals the problem immediately. 37 aircraft have oxygen regulators set to approximately 60% of standard flow. The settings are consistent enough that it appears deliberate, not random mechanical failure. Strauss reports to von Handel at 18:30 hours. "Sir, we have another sabotage incident. 37 aircraft have deliberately misadjusted oxygen regulators. Someone accessed these aircraft and manually altered the systems." Von Handel's expression could melt steel. "How many missions have we flown with compromised oxygen systems?" "Unknown, sir. Possibly dozens over the past week. We've had 11 reported oxygen-related aborts in the past 5 days. We attributed them to equipment defects. Pilots could have died." "Yes, sir." If any had continued climbing instead of aborting, hypoxia would have caused fatal crashes. Van Handel slams his fist on the desk. 2 sabotage incidents in 2 weeks. Someone on this base is systematically degrading our operational capability, and security hasn't identified them. He calls Hauptmann Richter. Your investigation has failed. We have a saboteur who has now struck twice. I want every person on this base investigated. Everyone. I don't care if they're cooks or clerks or generals. Find this person. The security investigation expands dramatically. Every member of the base personnel, all 890 individuals, undergoes intensive background review. Richter establishes a dedicated investigation team. 4 military police officers and 2 Gestapo agents transferred from Brussels specifically to root out sabotage networks. The Gestapo agents, Kriminalkommissar Paul Vogel and Criminal Assistant Ernst Mann, arrive on March 4, 1943. They're professionals, experienced in counter-resistance operations across occupied territories. They bring methodologies that regular military police don't use. Surveillance, informant networks, psychological pressure. Vogel calls a mandatory assembly of all base personnel at 0900 hours on March 5th. 890 people stand in formation on the parade ground while Vogel addresses them from a platform. 2 acts of sabotage have occurred on this base. 42 aircraft grounded by forged maintenance tags. 37 aircraft compromised by oxygen system tampering. These acts endangered German pilots and interfered with combat operations against the enemy. His voice carries across the silent formation. Someone here is responsible. Someone with access to aircraft, knowledge of systems, and intent to damage the Reich. We will find this person. We will question everyone. We will investigate everyone. And when we find the saboteur, they will be executed. Kohler stands in formation with the other custodial workers, expression neutral, hands at his sides. He's wearing the same gray coveralls he wears every day, the same unremarkable appearance he's cultivated for 3 years. Vogel continues. Anyone with information about suspicious behavior will report it immediately. Anyone found withholding information will be considered complicit. This base is now under total security lockdown. No one enters or leaves without authorization. The investigation begins with technical personnel again, the same assumption as before. Only someone with aircraft expertise could execute these sabotages. Mechanics, engineers, electricians, armament specialists. Everyone who touches aircraft undergoes interrogation. Vogel's methods are more invasive than Richter's. He doesn't just ask questions. He reviews personal mail, monitors conversations, plants informants among work crews. He's looking for patterns, inconsistencies, anything suggesting resistance connections or anti-German sentiment. March 7th, 1943. Kohler is summoned for questioning. Not by Richter this time, but by Vogel himself. The interrogation room is different from before. Brighter lights, a chair positioned in the center, isolated. Vogel sits behind a table with Kohler's personnel file open in front of him. Ernst Kohler, age 47, employed as custodial worker since April 1940. Assigned from civilian labor pool in Liège. Yes, sir. Your background documentation indicates you worked as a general laborer before the war. Odd jobs, factory work, no specialized skills. That's correct, sir. Vogel studies the file. You've been on this base for nearly 3 years. No disciplinary issues. No complaints. Invisible, one might say. Kohler says nothing. Invisible is exactly what he's cultivated. Where were you born? Liège, sir. Belgium. That's what your papers say. Vogel closes the file. Tell me about your work routine. Where do you go during a typical day? Kohler describes his duties exactly as they are: cleaning hangars, emptying trash, mopping floors in the operations building. He doesn't elaborate, doesn't volunteer information, just answers questions. You have access to aircraft during maintenance periods. Yes, sir. I clean work areas while crews service the aircraft. Do you understand aircraft systems? No, sir. I clean. I don't touch technical equipment. But you're around aircraft constantly. You observe maintenance procedures. I observe people working, sir. I don't understand what they're doing. Vogel leans forward. The oxygen regulator sabotage required someone to access 37 aircraft over several days. Someone who could move through hangars without attracting attention. Someone invisible.